This video was in the books for quite a while, just needed an opportune time to make it. And no better moment than now. Let's just chuck the elephant out of the room, because so many fans online have suddenly turned on the old films. Yeah, Civil War and Winter Soldier's flaw was the obnoxious grayscale in the airport fight and the highway battle, but the films had an excellent story. Whether it was mixing the cab side with the Avengers fall pretty well, or turning an MCU film into a clever spy thriller, each film had a sense of character, whether it was an artistical direction or the use of effects for a certain film where, yeah, this movie has a Jon Favreau style to it. Or noticing fast camera cuts during an action sequence. Who else but the Russos? The point is, there was a conceited plan of a big story to this epic clash of destinies. While now, after all that, MCU now feels like a fraud has taken control of the universe. 2008, where this journey began with Iron Man, a character very famous to the comic book fans. Unfortunately for casuals at the time like myself, we had no clue who he was. We were all fans of Batman and Spider-Man. So a company in financial trouble, looking for some sort of surge in the mainstream media of film, as DC has been hammering in its popularity with Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, Iron Man goes straight into production with over $100 million budget. And the funny part is, there was never a clear script. They simply had an outline, which honestly makes Iron Man a very pure comic book film. RDJ, Jeff Bridges, Terrence Howard, Gwyneth Paltrow are all very talented actors, and pulled off what felt like the last attempt for Marvel. Iron Man was a big success, and I'm sure Marvel took a big sigh of relief despite them mingling with their script constantly. Favreau and his team pulled off arguably the best solo MCU film to this day. And Marvel proceeded to make many more origin films right after, like The Hulk, Captain America, Thor, all to assemble the first team-up film, Avengers, which was the rise of the MCU. Not the official peak run though, despite making billions of dollars. But what made Avengers work was the fact that the previous solo films already introduced us to the main squad. Ideally, they focused more on Black Widow and Hawkeye's character in this movie in terms of development, but not a whole lot to derail from the main story, as it really focused on character conflicts, Loki being the center of it all. And this film perfectly unites the big personalities to working together. But if I were to say which film really put MCU on the map and pretty much guaranteed a box office juggernaut for each film, yeah, that would be The Winter Soldier. Just a heads up, wasn't a big fan of the film when it first came out, and many called me crazy, so I went in with a different view this time. And yes, I indeed was crazy to believe this. The Winter Soldier, although it looks like a dried up Sahara desert in terms of visuals, it is a very thrilling story, with characters that have vast mystery to them, and a lot of moments where they keep you on the edge of your seat. But from there and forward, MCU simply increased and increased in terms of popularity till Infinity War added the entirety of their work together in a stellar two-part. Endgame, despite being a satisfying conclusion to the story, it is definitely the third weakest out of the four. The film has quite a bit of issues, but not to the point where it completely destroys the film. Infinity War was very good due to all the characters we know receiving an enormous amount of development prior to the massive team-up against Thanos, and a very clever direction to make Infinity War around him as the center, as we've barely seen who he is and his motives. If you weren't familiar with the comics, I also want to point out Thanos has been teased to be the big bad since the first Avengers film. That's a very important point for what I'm going to discuss in the later phases. Russo's really made Thanos an iconic villain. The dude was just dropping bar after bar, and it really cemented himself as one of the better villains in pop culture. But it also certainly created a lot of hype moments for fans, such as Thor's arrival, Cap grabbing the gauntlet, lifting the hammer, and the gasp of Iron Man almost dying. We will never reach those heights, fellas. Honestly, the DCU should have taken notes instead of speedrunning their own universe and shoehorning a bunch of characters into a giant long cut. Good one, Warner Brothers. Anyways, MCU reached the heights that nobody ever predicted 10 years ago would even happen.
Assemble.
We reached the pinnacle of this video. The downfall of the MCU, where the universe we loved and saw the growth of finally shattering, making us question, was it bound to happen? Was there a plan in place that Feige has been building for the new generation of characters? The growth and creating a new team to fend off against universe-ending threats like Thanos? And to answer you simply,
Marvel is at their Disney Star Wars level of hatred and split fandom into a crap ton of sections, where you have one side dismantling everything Marvel does in a biased hatred towards the franchise, and you have the opposite where folks simply eat everything they create, and the neutral side like myself where you sit back and don't care and go see if it's worth the money. As someone who's part of the neutral group of fans, Disney Plus killed the MCU. When Phase 4 was being announced, Marvel likely wanted to speed run a lot of the character stories. Why release 3 films a year and have another 10-year build, let's say to the next Avengers film, when they can mix $300 million budget across each project and have a 5-year build up? Surely VFX teams will have a wonderful time. Well, this ultimately killed a lot of films and shows due to the lack of creativity in the writing and visuals, as well as separating many of the casuals to the hardcore fans. You see, Phase 1 in the span of 4 years, guess how many projects were released during that time before the first Avengers film? About 5. Now Phase 4 has a total of 25 projects separating through television and films. That is a crap ton of content, and a casual fan is likely going to be seeing like 50% of those projects. 2021 to 2022 alone had 7 films and multiple shows. No casual is going to be spinning through all of that. 1, too much content in the span of a year, and 2, the most pivotal reason, the lack of effort into the product. The films which did the most box office since 2020 are films of the original characters filled with nostalgia keys, because Marvel and Disney failed to develop the newcomers in the same effort as they did with the original cast of characters. They made their success, now it's simply milking as much as they can for the sake of profit, filling pockets like mad businessmen. But what inspired me to orchestrate this video was the reveal for the cast of Avengers Doomsday. A lot of names, returning X-Men characters played by legendary actors who can't seem to get away from the Marvel counterparts. And yes, RDJ, who we all believed was finally hitting new strides after Oppenheimer. Away from that Iron Man character. But now he's back, possibly missing on the Marvel paychecks and alongside the Russo brothers, to the part 1 of Secret Wars, Doomsday. But why does this moment feel so desperate compared to the Comic-Con in 2014, when we all saw Thanos was holding his gauntlet, making people go apeshit? To really answer the obvious, the plan was horrifying. They had a layout, they had their main villain, but due to certain events with such actor, Marvel began to panic and scrapped out the character entirely. No recasting. I mean, it was fine before, but nope, they can't for some reason. And all they have is the member berries, the Russos, who for some reason can only direct Marvel films, and well, more people were confused on the internet than excited. They have every right to be. You build up Kang, now you dismiss the poor fella for Doom, who, by the way, still haven't gotten a teaser in any of the films and shows I've seen at least. We didn't know shit about Thanos, but him strapping his gauntlet in Age of Ultron left fans with chills down their spine.
Let him have his fun.
They haven't built this new Avengers team and now started talking about it in Brave New World. They failed to compromise a new X-Men team since they want Hugh Jackman to play this character till he's freaking 90. Marvel is just way too afraid to now take risk. Actually, let me rephrase it. Way too afraid to make risks that make sense. Some risks can be very stupid and should have never been attempted to begin with.
See you around.
But it feels Marvel has seen the lack of ingenuity lately, which is certainly hurting the future of this universe.
They'll be fine.
I highly doubt Feige will be a Marvel after Secret Wars is released, as this feels like it's their last ditch effort to try to pull all the member berries as they can before they soft reboot this franchise. What felt like a complete story is now a disjointed mess caused by a nuke of greed. I'm not denying that the MCU Phase 1 and 3 wasn't perfect. Oh, trust me on that. That era had quite a bit of stinkers. But you can't deny that the stinkers did not force Marvel or Disney to completely turn to another direction, or revamp the entire storyline because fans didn't like a film in a majority of successful ones. They just kept moving forward, learned from their mistakes and what they can fix, similar to George Lucas in the prequels. It's why I always say it was easy for those films to be fully developed with the TV show because the creator didn't play a tug of war with his own storyline, unlike what Disney did with the sequels. And what they've done now with the MCU. It's like another tug of war. They should have recasted Kang, although things weren't looking too bright for the character, but honestly they at least were building him up. They haven't done shit with Doom, except hey, RDJ is playing him. That'll sell fans. The multiverse, what seemed to be an interesting concept, has been an epic collapse for the MCU. Nothing makes sense. I simply wanted to cover my lost interest for the MCU, as the Doom casting announcement, rewatching old MCU films inspired me to make this video. But anyways, that's it for me, so see you guys in the next one.